Great. So welcome everyone again to the October edition of the VolunteerMatch Solutions Best Practice Network webinar series. Today's topic is skills-based volunteerism as a corporate strategy, how to build an effective and impactful skills-based program. My name is Vicki Hush, and I'm the Vice President of Strategic Partnerships here at VolunteerMatch, and I'll be helping to facilitate today's session and discussion. Just to get started, a few housekeeping items. Many of you have already used the question box to let us know that you can hear us. That's there throughout the call. Please feel free to type in questions as they come to you, and we'll be posing them to the speakers at the end of the call. You can also submit questions via Twitter using @VM_solutions with hashtag VMBPN. And a copy of the link to the recording of this webinar, it will be sent out to everyone on the call. So know that you'll be able to take a look at that and circulate it to folks who were unable to attend. So now a little bit about the topic. Skills-based volunteerism is becoming a really key strategy that many companies, including yours, are using to deepen engagement with their communities while also building the skills and talents of their employees. Today we're going to learn from Common Impact and Fidelity Investments how they create, grow, and evaluate skills-based volunteer programs that fit their culture, their core business, and also their community strategy. That's different models that you can take back and use to approach skills-based volunteering. And the barriers that you may be facing, you'll leave with some takeaways and ideas on how to approach them. So first we're going to be hearing from Danielle Holly, who is from Common Impact and who's going to share the different models you can use to approach skills-based volunteerism. Danielle serves as the Executive Director at Common Impact, which is an organization building stronger communities, facilitating collaborations between global companies and locally focused nonprofits. Ms. Holly is considered one of the leading experts on skills volunteerism, and she works closely with corporate partners to help them achieve both their business and community impact goals. She's helped numerous corporations and nonprofits navigate the new era in skills-based volunteering, including global powerhouses Fidelity Investments, John Hancock, and State Street. So we're really excited to have Danielle. In addition, we're going to dive into some real-world examples with Laura Hudson-Hamry and Marissa Costello of Fidelity Investments. Laura Hudson-Hamry is a 7-year veteran of Fidelity Investments and currently serves as the Senior Director, Community Relations, supporting 11 regions across the United States. She crafts strategy in support of national community outreach efforts engaging employee volunteers. And today her role also manages the firm's relationship with Hands-On Network and oversees the signature school transformation days. And then finally, Marissa Costello is the Director of Talent Management at Fidelity Investments and is an accomplished global human resources leader with over 17 years experience. Her experience spans multiple industries, including financial services, biotech, high-tech, and manufacturing. And in her current role, she's responsible for developing and driving strategic talent management and leadership development solutions aligned to the business strategy for workplace invest, the leading provider plans. So we're really excited to have everyone on board, and by the end of today's webinar, we hope that you'll walk away with an understanding of how companies and individuals can really unlock the power of skills-based service in areas where you live and work. So without further ado, I will stop talking and hand things over to Danielle to get us started. Danielle, are you there?
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yes, you sound great.
Wonderful. Thanks, Vicki, and thanks to your team for hosting this session today. I'm just delighted to have a chance to speak with you all. And thanks also to our partners at Fidelity, Laura and Marissa, for joining the conversation. Just want to give you a snapshot of what we'll be covering today. We'll start with an introduction to skills-based volunteerism and the business case for it. And then Laura and Marissa will bring us through Fidelity's approach to their program and how it helps Fidelity achieve both its community and talent development goals. We'll then wrap up quickly with some resources and tools that can help support program development and leave a good amount of time for questions and answers. I know we've got a lot of folks on the line today. I want to make sure that this is an interactive discussion as well. Next slide, please. So as I'm sure many folks on this call are familiar with, the corporate mandate has really changed over the past 10 years. The charge for corporations is now to look beyond that single bottom line and focus on its externalities, the community, and really returning a sustainable profit to its stakeholders. Their customers are demanding that social responsibility and sustainability be incorporated into core business practices. They've got a new generation of leaders, their employees, that are demanding that their employers offer them opportunities to invest in their community as part of their jobs, not just a nice to have or a side project, but really core to what they do every day. And this wave has companies focused on how to build these practices into their operations in a way that strengthens the communities in which they operate, that enriches the experience and the leadership of their employees, and also returns value to their bottom line. Next slide, please. So in this new environment and in an economic environment where that bottom line is in the spotlight more than ever, skills-based volunteerism has really emerged as a strategy that reinforces both that community and that financial mandate at once. So companies are turning to their people, their talent, as their most strategic philanthropic asset, and designing skills-based volunteer programs that build the capacity of nonprofit organizations that they partner with and the talents of their employees at the same time. So the core idea behind skills-based volunteering is really that by aligning the unique skills and talents of individuals to the community challenges that those individuals are best positioned to address, you amplify the value of each hour that that individual contributes. And in doing so, you unlock net new resources in the community. And that gives us all a better shot at fighting these seemingly intractable societal challenges. And while we often think about this in the spectrum of professional skills, finance, marketing, operations, it also extends to professions outside of that, with individuals, all sorts of backgrounds in things like arts and theater and carpentry. I always use the example of a Habitat for Humanity project, which most folks would consider a traditional hands-on volunteer opportunity. But if instead of lay people volunteering for that project, you had architects and carpenters and painters and plumbers as your volunteers, that house would be built faster, it would be stronger and more effectively done. And essentially, you're increasing then the value of each hour that those volunteers spend and the overall quality of the product at once. And of course, how much these hours are amplified depends on the profession, the city you're in, the challenge you're addressing. But it's always at least twice the value of a non-skills-based hour, and often closer to 7. So, for example, in cities like Boston or New York or DC, independent sector values the hands-on volunteer hour at around $27 an hour. And in the skills-based engagement, those hours have a market value of $175. So to put this in the larger context of volunteering happening in our country right now, in 2011, 64.3 million Americans volunteered almost 8 billion hours of service, which was worth $171 billion. Imagine what the value of those hours would be if they were skills-based hours and that total. Really powerful stuff. Next slide.
Thanks. And Danielle, just real quick, can you make sure that you're just talking directly into the phone? It seems like you're going in and out just a little bit.
Oh, really? Okay, let me know if that continues. I'm on a cell phone, so that might be the problem. So we often refer to skills-based volunteering as a win-win-win, since there are such tangible values for everyone who's involved in these initiatives, the companies, the individuals, and the nonprofits. For companies, there are 2 primary benefits that we see. It enhances their relationships with the community partners that they work with by allowing them to really connect with the work that those partners are doing, get a little bit closer to the work than they could ordinarily. And in an environment where philanthropic funds are steady or often decreasing, it also allows continued and incremental investment in the community. And then the second primary benefit is to its core business, developing the leadership capabilities, the functional skills, and the internal networks of their employees. Looking at it from a volunteer's perspective, that talent development is, of course, one of the main benefits as well. But there's also that deeper connection with the community that these skills-based engagements afford. getting, again, closer to the work and really feeling like you, as a volunteer, have supported a cause that's meaningful to you and that you've supported it in a way that not everyone could, using your specific skill set, and that's incredibly motivating and rewarding. And for nonprofits, there's that injection of a specific expertise and capacity that the organization may not have on staff. And some of that knowledge is transferred to that team during these engagements. And beyond the deliverable itself, there's an opportunity to cultivate relationships with these volunteers and with their companies as real long-term partners in addressing a shared mission and what you're trying to accomplish. Next slide. Can you hear me okay now, Vicki?
Yeah, thank you.
So a couple of quick data points that I want to share that reinforces this win-win-win equation that I've been talking about. In 2013, just this past summer, Deloitte released its Volunteer Impact Survey, and the data around the return on investment of skills-based volunteering is more powerful than ever. It's clear that SBV makes an individual more employable, both within a company and when looking for a role in a new company, with activities being taken into consideration in a job interview about 80% of the time. And it also makes candidates from different types of backgrounds more desirable, and where the background of an individual doesn't necessarily align perfectly to the job that they're applying for, the skills-based service is a real way of proving consulting skills and project management skills. Next slide. Another element that Deloitte's survey revealed is, aside from employability, that there is broad consensus on the other key benefits for companies and their employees, from companies' reputation to skill development, the culture or the ethos of a company. It helps really reinforce the different dimensions that feed into overall health of the organization. Next slide. And as we look at these business impacts, this is a survey done by our friends at True Impact in 2010 with respect to traditional volunteerism. It's clear that skills-based opportunities enhance the benefits that traditional volunteerism provides. So here you can see with the blue lines representing traditional volunteer activities and the red representing skills-based, that particularly in areas like employee skill gain and nonprofit effectiveness and reach, you see significant additional benefit, which really underscores both the efficiency of that skill alignment as well as the shared benefit that these opportunities create for participants. Next slide. So Common Impact has been working at this for 13 years, and I think nothing is more powerful than the data that comes right out of the mouths of our volunteers at the end of their engagement, and just really remarkable numbers for over 1,000 participants. Folks feeling great about their contributions itself, folks feeling great about the companies that they work for, going back to their companies and having deep appreciation of the resources that are available in the corporate environment once they've had a chance to really roll up their sleeves in a smaller, under-resourced environment at a nonprofit organization, and then the personal and professional development benefits that we've been talking about. Next slide. And this business case has not been lost on companies across the nation. More and more companies are coming to the table as part of a Billion Plus Change campaign that has been happening over the past couple of years. More than 500 companies have pledged to build or expand their skills-based program, and that certainly doesn't represent the full population of companies who are doing this work in some way, shape, or form. There are many more companies of all industries and sizes that are integrating a pro bono strategy into their core business practice. So the amount of organizations that are trying this, doing this, and the supply of skills-based volunteers has really notched up significantly in the past 3 years. Next slide. So I want to spend a little bit of time sharing how companies, once they are at that table, go about designing a skills-based program, and then we'll hand it over to my colleagues at Fidelity who really bring this to life every day. Next slide. So Common Impact is an organization that supports these companies in building programs that meet both their community engagement and talent development goals at once, and also programs that fit within the culture, the work styles, the infrastructure of these companies, making sure that it's a program that's as integrated and thus as sustainable as possible. And just to give you a snapshot of what this looks like, most of our corporate partners prefer team-based engagements where anywhere from 3 to 10 corporate employees are matched to a nonprofit for 3 to 6 month engagement. And the projects range across many skill sets: strategy, finance, operations, HR, technology. And the projects range from the most strategic, the development of a business plan for a new initiative or the development of an earned income strategy, to the tactical, the development of a database or a website. But one thing that is similar is that they are all really critical to the long-term success of the nonprofit. Next slide. It's funny to not manage your own slides. So companies come to us in all stages in skills-based program design, from knowing they want to build a program but not knowing where to begin, to having built a really successful program that they want to figure out how to scale. And we support them at any stage in this life cycle and in 3 key ways. So our strategy work, which you'll see on the left, supports companies in designing these programs, creating both a strategic and an operational framework that is uniquely designed to run and grow within a specific company's culture and workforce. And once that program is designed, we support companies in program management, so identifying the right organizations, scoping the right size project, managing and evaluating those projects. And finally, for companies that want to manage this work in-house, we develop tailored training platforms and tools that enable that. Next slide. So when we're starting to design the program, we'll define all the goals of the program, which run the gamut from community impact to employee impact to the brand and presence that a company has among all of its stakeholders. We'll then map that to the program levers that support those goals: team composition, project scope, number of nonprofits served. There are many more than what you see on this slide, but this is a good snapshot of the primary drivers that we tend to see. And we think about these goals and levers in the context of, 1, the company's core business, so its key markets, its customers, its competitive advantage. 2, its core competencies and the talents that its employees are bringing to bear. And then finally, the mandate or goals around employee engagement, so its philanthropic initiatives and any change the company is trying to inform in internal employee engagement, and so on. Next slide. And so as you can imagine, company to company, the results are pretty tailored and the program models look different, but these are the 4 primary models that you'll see across companies. The first are consulting projects, so team-based projects that address a specific and tangible challenge. Executive mentoring, where you have a corporate coach providing strategic guidance on either a functional challenge, so IT strategy, HR strategy, or general executive leadership support. The loaned executive model is where a corporation will grant a hand-selected employee a leave, and that individual is placed full-time in a nonprofit to support the organization broadly or a specific initiative that the nonprofit is working on. And then done in a day is with multiple skills-based volunteers conducting a training or implementing a project from multiple nonprofit organizations at once that are facing a similar challenge. So the popular hackathon model is a really good example of this. And finally, snapshot of the people with companies that are engaged, each with different backgrounds and professional goals and with different skills-based programs that are a snug fit for their needs. We've got millennials who are those new generations of leaders. They're new to the workforce. They're looking to develop workplace skills and gain exposure to different areas, and the people in their company as they think about their future careers. Emerging leaders, talent, who are broadly defined as mid-career professionals, the future leaders of the company who have deep functional expertise but are looking to stretch those skills through experiential learning and leadership opportunities. And this group is one that Marissa will be talking about later on that Fidelity really focuses on. And finally, senior leaders who have that depth in both functional and leadership expertise, but there are still skills-based opportunities that are a really great fit for them, helping them inject a fresh perspective and apply those deep skills in a new environment, and then bring those back to their roles or their companies to help them continue to innovate for their companies. And with that, I would love to move us past the conceptual, and for that I'm delighted to pass the baton to our partners at Fidelity, Laura and Marissa, who will help bring this program to life every day. And Laura's going to walk us through how Fidelity thinks about approaching that work. So Laura, over to you.
Thanks, Danielle. Just want to check on audio and make sure everyone can hear me.
Yep, you sound good. Just
great.
A little bit louder.
Oh, sure. How's that?
That's better.
Better? Okay. First of all, just thank you to our host, VolunteerMatch, Lauren and Vicki, and thanks for everyone across the country joining us. I can't say good afternoon to everyone because I know some are still in the AM time zone, so I'll say good day. Hope you're doing well. And as Danielle indicated, we've been working with Common Impact. Fidelity Investments has been working with Common Impact since 2004. It's been a very positive relationship that's grown over the years, and one that we have learned from our employees specifically. It's had a tremendous impact on both the employees and as well on our businesses, as you'll hear from Marissa. So just a brief overview of who we are at Fidelity Investments. Of course, we're the #1 provider of workplace savings plans in the U.S. and one of the largest mutual fund companies. We have currently 42,000 employees worldwide with 11 regional U.S. operations centers and more than 180 investor centers across the United States. Currently, we serve nearly 70 million customer accounts. You'll hear from Marissa in a little while, and she is representing our workplace investing group, which is essentially our employee-sponsored retirement account. And she'll be speaking specifically about projects that they undertook to address very specific talent development goals. And our hope is that through the conversation today, you'll learn a little bit more about not only Common Impact and the power they can have in partnering with them, but also from our perspective, the value that we've gained over the years in partnering with them. So with that, our relationship, as I said, began in 2004. At that point, it was primarily our Boston teams that worked with Common Impact. And it was really, the relationship was really spearheaded by our now Chief Information Officer, Steve Neff. He was a true visionary and a champion of Common Impact, and he saw quite early on the value that that the synergies when they're coming together can bring. So we had, a clear business goals that needed to be met, and there were clear community needs, and Common Impact was the intermediary that brought the two together and helped all relevant parties meet those goals and objectives very successfully. It's something that doesn't happen overnight, as you'll hear from Marissa. Our projects tend to be about 4 months in length, and so they're quite in depth. It's an investment of time and energy from both the company side as well as from the project team side, as well as from the nonprofit side. It's something that Common Impact does quite a bit around vetting nonprofit partners with us, so that there's really a perfect match between the project team's skill set and nonprofit needs. And the process is really critical in terms of, I think, the success of the project for all involved. So before we get into specific skill-based volunteering programs that we have offered through Common Impact, I just wanted to share a little bit about who Fidelity is in the community. In the last 3.5 years, we have sharpened our focus, and skills-based volunteerism has become a sharper part of that focus. And we've done that for a couple of reasons. One, as I'm sure most on the call have experienced, you know, with the economic environment, we're all forced to take a really close look at our budgets and how those resources are utilized. And so we took a step in the direction of taking a look at how we invest in our communities and what the needs were so that we could ensure we were having the greatest impact. What we landed on was education and financial education. And we landed on that because, as the first slide will show you, only 27% of young adults are familiar with basic financial concepts such as interest rates, inflation, and risk diversification. And the low quality education means low financial literacy, and low financial literacy leads to less financial literacy. And Fidelity sets out to help individuals navigate various stages in their lives, and we do the same thing in our approach through our community relations program. So next slide, we landed on a two-part approach in our community relations programming. The first, the foundation begins with the basics of core education. We believe that without a core education, one cannot really successfully understand and manage financial literacy skills, so that you need to have both a core, sound core education and couple that with sound financial basics. And so that's how we approached our entire community relations program. If we go to the next slide, we will see that there are 4 areas that we offer for our employees to get involved. The first is just supporting a cause, and that tends to materialize in the form of campaigns, which I'm sure all of us here are engaged in. We have holiday campaigns that we participate in, school supplies drives, reading book drives. Those are the campaigns where we'll see the largest number of employees engaged, and we really consider it a volunteer participation opportunity rather than a clear-out volunteer opportunity. It's not. It's an opportunity for an employee to touch a cause, but they may not be physically going out and painting inspirational murals at a school. The second form of volunteerism that we offer is called a one and done, and or sometimes I refer to it as a one-hit wonder. That's just a single volunteer opportunity. It's not tied to any other initiative we're doing. It is tied to our education, financial education platform more often than not, but it's an opportunity for an employee to go and participate in a one-time opportunity. Then we start to move into a deeper level or a deeper commitment for our employees. In our kind of the third bucket, we have mentoring and tutoring opportunities for our employees, and those take the form with nonprofit partners, of course. It may be a partnership with Junior Achievement or with a local school district or school, more likely. Citizen Schools is another partner where we work to provide writing coaches on site in our Boston offices. And that's, again, an opportunity for those employees to take their volunteerism one step deeper. It's a little bit more in terms of time commitment, and we're getting a little bit closer to that idea of skills-based volunteerism, where it's a deeper time commitment. At times there's preparation involved for the work. It's possible that they would be doing this as part of a team effort. Not always the case, but possible. And then in our fourth quadrant, you'll see bringing our skills to the community. And this is really about impacting the community in a way that we don't or haven't previously. And it's obviously a greater commitment of time. It's a greater commitment of resources. It's a greater engagement. And in the end, we believe it's a greater impact on our community, and that's why we continue to do it and look for opportunities to do this type of work. We've done most of this work through Common Impact. Some of our legal teams do some pro bono service on an ongoing basis, but those are that's not a team necessarily a team commitment, but more of an individual commitment. So the idea with our skills-based activities is we're taking a very specific skill set and we are investing that skill set into the community. And many often think, based on our brand and the fact that we're a financial services company, that would mean we're providing, we're taking our financial services employees and they are out coaching or counseling those in the community with financial skills, or to help equip them with financial skills. And to some extent that does occur, but a large portion of Fidelity's employee base or footprint is technologists. So we look for ways to engage our technologists in the community. Doesn't have anything to do with financial services, but a very specific skill set that that can be used to help advance our community's needs. And on the next slide, so where have we gone so far this year through our volunteer efforts? As of the first half of the year, our employees across our 11 regions contributed more than 20,000 hours of service, and that was attributed to 4,400 employees. We anticipate that will be doubled by the end of the year. And each year we do notice that our employee volunteer efforts do increase over time. And it's something that we all strive for. And so, of course, it's very gratifying to see. And we attribute that to a number of things. One is the more focused, sharpened focus we've taken in the last 3.5 years. But also, we've actually broadened our work with Common Impact, and that's a portion of what you're seeing reflected in our hours. If we go to the next slide, in terms of our involvement and leadership with skills-based volunteerism, we've been, as we said, looking with Common Impact since 2004. Nearly 275 associates have completed 67 projects. And they span multiple business units within our company, including our major regional operations centers, which are located in Boston and Merrimack, New Hampshire, the Raleigh, Durham area in North Carolina, Covington, Kentucky, and Westlake, Texas. And we've also had projects in New York and our New Jersey site. So those lines of business represent technology, finance, and community relations. And Marissa is, again, with human resources and works directly with our workplace investing group, and they've been quite involved in the last several years with Common Impact projects. And we work closely to align our projects with our philanthropic efforts in the community, as Marissa will share with you in an example she's going to be discussing. Not all of our projects necessarily fall in our strategic focus area. We certainly we make every effort to introduce education and financial education nonprofits when we begin our work with Common Impact, but that synergy isn't always lined up. Sometimes the nonprofit isn't able to kind of receive the skill set that we're able to offer at that time. And so there's quite a bit that goes into the decision in terms of what nonprofit is finally selected. And Common Impact, again, does a really excellent job of doing their due diligence to match up the skill set that we're bringing to the table with the nonprofits that we've introduced to them, so that we can have the best fit in terms of meeting the nonprofit's needs and also addressing the needs that Fidelity is trying to meet. In the past, since 2004, and this is Danielle's data point, she tells me that our service is valued at over $3 million, which is amazing when you think about it, and one that continues to bring us back to Common Impact year after year. So this last slide, which is a map of the United States and 5 regional operations centers where we've hosted projects. as you see, of those 67 projects, 55 have been in the New England region alone. We've hosted 4 in the Southeast region, 4 in Texas, 2 in the Midwest, and 2 in New York, New Jersey. So with that, I will transition over to Marissa Costello, who's going to share more with you about specific projects that we've supported in the last few years. Marissa?
And actually, you know, I'm going to just jump in real quick. Thanks so much. I wanted to actually shake things up a tiny bit and just pose a question that has come in while Danielle, you and Laura were talking, and then we'll pass it over to Marissa. And Marissa, feel free to jump in to answer this question. But the question is really, you know, as folks are starting to plan their skills-based volunteer program, what's a realistic expectation for the percentage of either time spent planning that component of the program, or number of projects, or even just, you know, number of employees that is sort of a good baseline as people are starting to create these programs? You know, is it that 10% of all of the volunteering that's taking place is skills-based? You know, what's a good baseline that Danielle, you would suggest, and then also Laura and Marissa, what you've seen is, you know, a realistic start?
Yeah, this is Danielle. So, you know, I think it's so dependent on what your company's goals are around this work. What I always recommend is that you start with, at least, if you're doing kind of a team-based approach, which most companies are, to start with at least 2 or 3 projects so that you can really understand in that pilot phase what the difference, what's working really well, and what's situational versus the model. And you can suss that out when you've got 2 or 3 projects going at one time. And I think smaller is usually better to get your arms wrapped around. So, you know, a team of 4 to 5 employees versus 10. In terms of the lift it takes to internally manage these programs, Marissa, would love to kind of hear your thoughts since you're so close to this day-to-day. That also varies, but I bet you'd have some great perspective on that.
Yeah, hi. Thank you, Danielle. I mean, I think that, you know, again, it depends how many projects you want to take on. And so within workplace investing, what we've been doing is we've been generally tackling 2 to potentially 3 per year. And it's a makeup of, you know, about 8 different emerging leaders on each of those projects. And I think that, you know, from a program management perspective, you know, there is, to do it properly, there is time and dedication, but I think there's other ways you can get others involved within your organization to help support and get the project kind of running end-to-end more smoothly, and so that you share that kind of burden. And so I think it's hard to necessarily quantify for this audience on this call, but what I would say is that, you know, as we learn more about some of the work we've been doing in workplace investing, I'd be happy to follow up and talk to anybody, you know, more specifically around kind of the time and commitment, you know, and Danielle and Laura, I know you would as well. We can kind of break it down in terms of, you know, my role as, you know, as the program manager, the role that Danielle plays along with some of the other people within Common Impact, as well as the role that Laura plays, to really, so for people to really see how that all sort of synergizes and comes together.
Great, thanks so much. And then let's just go ahead and, Marissa, have you share what you've seen.
Okay, so did you want to go, you wanted to go to my piece now?
Yes, yeah, thanks.
Okay. So thanks, Vicki. So Vicki mentioned a little bit about my role. But for those who will actually listen, so I go around lots of times, what I like to say is that I actually think I have one of the best jobs here at Fidelity. And the reason for that, and I mean that in true sincerity, but the reason for that really has to do with the work that I get to do with Common Impact and that I get to do with our internal community relations folks, because just to see that the work that these really talented leaders get to bring to fruition in terms of benefiting both themselves and the community has been pretty amazing and pretty powerful. So Laura had mentioned, you know, we have a longstanding relationship with Common Impact from a Fidelity perspective. And workplace investing, we actually got involved about 3 years ago, and we were really intrigued. We thought this is a pretty neat opportunity that we wanted to learn more about, and the whole skills-based volunteering seemed to be just a really amazing way to develop our group of emerging leaders that we have internal to our business. And we thought to ourselves, this would be great. Like, how do we take them outside of a classroom environment? And even better, let's take them outside of Fidelity. And a lot of the work that we pose to these individuals is really around thinking about end-to-end business case solutions, which, you know, particularly in an organization large as ours, but I think even in smaller organizations, lots of times people work very finite, in a very finite manner in terms of what what are some of the challenges that they're facing. So to be able to really come at this from an end-to-end perspective, which is the problems that we pose to them, has been a real true, powerful learning experience for them. And so, I think we talked a little bit about it, but again, as Danielle had mentioned, our target population really is around our emerging talent, and we work in really close partnership as part of our talent identification efforts with our HR partners as well as our leaders in the business. And as you can imagine, so 8,000 employees with an opportunity for maybe 16 emerging leaders each year to participate. That's a really unique and special opportunity, and so we make sure that our associates know that they know that this is a really strong investment we're making in them, and because of the potential that we see in terms of their ability and what we think they have contributed and will contribute to our organization going forward. A little bit about the team. So we mentioned we've been having about 2 to 3 teams. There's about 8 people per team. For us, just because of the business environment we're in, we actually are able to bring together a cross-business group of individuals. So it's we have people from sales, from marketing, from technology, from HR, from finance, from strategy and planning, and come together to solve a strategic problem that a nonprofit is facing. And part of why I think the team makeup works is we actually assign a more senior level leader as their coach throughout the project, as well as we have an executive champion who checks in along the way in 3 different phases of the actual project and provides their coaching as well. I think Laura mentioned it's about 4 months, so we do this in a really accelerated fashion, and many of these team members who are coming together may not have even ever interacted with one another for the first time, and so they are asked to choose a project leader, and that project leader really is tasked with going through the whole, forming, norming, storming, kind of performing stages, like I said, in an accelerated fashion to get after the key business issues. What I would want to strongly mention is that it is a big time dedication, and we do ask that they are able to do this in addition to their normal day job. And so over a period of 4 months, these employees are working on this up to 10 hours per week. And part of that, honestly, is really driven by them. And so we work really closely with Common Impact to scope the projects and to have them help us keep tabs on this, because what we find, honestly, is that our employees want to dedicate even more time because they get so drawn into what the nonprofit is looking to achieve. And then I think, as both Danielle and Laura had mentioned, the area that we really focus on is from a true business case perspective. So working with Common Impact in terms of going out and identifying what are some of the strategic problems that an organization has faced that could benefit from a small team of resources who are going to come in and really look at it end to end. And then this team, gets in there. They do data analysis, data gathering, data analysis. They come up with recommendations. They propose solutions, and they come up with various options too. And so, we ask them to kind of go sort of moderate to aggressive in the things that they propose to the nonprofit. And it is also an expectation that they come up with a project plan and implementation phase, because I think that that's another thing that we've learned, that it's really important to be able to hand over all the research to the nonprofit, as well as a very tangible step-by-step action plan in terms of how they can actually go about putting these solutions in place. Danielle, anything you'd want to add, in particular to either some of the education that you do with the teams or anything that I may have missed?
Sure. Yeah. I think it's just both on the corporate team side and on the nonprofit side, really important to have a translator. These are folks that are coming from very different backgrounds often, and there's a lot of education around, especially from a corporate team's perspective, the different type of environment they're about to enter, and the fact that they are going to have to solution and solve problems within a really resource-constrained environment, and that the nonprofit organizations and the folks that work at these places are really talented and really expert in program delivery and often have deep functional skills, but because they're under-resourced, don't have as much capacity or as much ability to bring on the technical expertise that they need to solve their challenges. And so just setting that tone that this is a shared learning experience is also something that Fidelity and Common Impact care a lot about in that education process.
Thank you for that. Next slide. So, and part of the design of our program, we really wanted to build it around some key just overall learning and development objectives. And so you see this here on this page. But Fidelity, is a very, we're a matrix organization. We're very relationship-oriented. And so it's really important that we're thinking of ways to develop those skills in our employees. And so this is a really unique way where people have to get out and they have to build relationships and work with people that they haven't worked with in the past and go out to the community and really think about collaboration and influencing. Oftentimes we see that some of the problem statements that the nonprofit has come to us with are not the actual problems that really need to be solved. And so these teams are tasked with really getting underneath that and, in a very diplomatic and thoughtful way, but looking to influence them to really think differently if necessary. Our executive champion really pushes our teams to say, you know what, I hear what you're saying, but I think that, and I hear what the nonprofit is saying, but I think that you guys know that the solution is going to push them outside their comfort zone. That's your job, that's your role, and that's okay. And let's think about the best way to do that. Let's provide them with a couple different options. Let's show them the project benefits, sort of A versus B, if they do it, their way versus, some of, the way we might propose. And, they do it in a very, constructive and thoughtful way. But it pushes them, I think, too, in terms of having to build those collaboration and influencing skills. And they have to do business case development. It's very customer focused. I mean, they're clearly treating the nonprofits as the client. There's the program execution skill piece. We definitely, because these solutions are really from an end-to-end perspective, it's testing their innovation capabilities and their complex problem-solving skills. And, oftentimes they're doing presentations to the board, to the staff members, to our internal senior leadership team about the results that they're proposing. So it's a great opportunity for them to get that skill-building expertise and opportunity to stretch themselves. Another thing that we ask them to do is we say, hey, you know what? If you've never presented to a large audience before, or if you've always been really interested in financial statement analysis, or whatever that may be, step up. And this is a great chance to kind of push yourself outside your comfort zone and learn and apply that skill. And then I think one of the other things that really happens is they get to expand their network of internal and external colleagues. I hear examples all the time from folks who participated in this program saying, you know what, this is really great. Now I know who to call to help me solve this business problem here at Fidelity. So next slide.
So Marissa, I just wanted to be do a time check, and we've got about 5 or 6 minutes remaining. I wanted to see if there were any slides that you wanted to highlight and then just jump into some questions, if that's all right.
Yeah, absolutely. So so one key point on this slide is that the community investment to date with just with workplace investing alone is valued at $835,000. The value is underestimated. I think that the return to the community is really immeasurable, and that reason that is because we track, and Danielle with Common Impact tracks. I mean, we hear about things that are happening, a year or two later in terms of the benefits that have been realized. So I think that's really compelling, that there's long-term sustainable results from the work that gets done. And then if you go to the next slide, I'm not going to read this to you, but these are the quotes from the nonprofits. So 4 different nonprofits that we've worked with in the last 2 years. This is the feedback that they provide to us. And so I think this really says it all. It's very powerful in terms of the work that our employees get to do in partnership with these really tremendous organizations. And then I think from there I would pause. Danielle and I had a few case studies that we were going to share, but that's something too. If people are interested in more, we can certainly follow up after this call. Danielle, anything else you'd want to add?
No, that's great, Marissa. I would also say that in the deck there is a slide with some resources to take kind of next steps and resources that are out there in the field for both thinking about how to approach skills-based service and how to think about it and how to vet nonprofit organizations. So that will be available to you. That's up there right now.
Wonderful. Thank you. So at this point, there's a couple of questions that have come in, but certainly if folks want to ask any of our speakers anything, this is your chance to type something into that questions box. And in the meantime, one of the questions that came in is really around how do you continue to engage your employees in these skills-based programs. So that's sort of the first part of the question. And the second part is how do you make sure that it's not the same employees who are continuing to engage in these projects? How do you, kind of get people in and continue to engage them, but then also bring in some fresh blood to start to get involved in the skills program? And I'm going to throw this to Marissa to answer.
Thank you. That sounds great. So I think it really is part of our talent identification and development efforts. And so when we go out, we want to make sure but when we go out and we give the associate, the employee, the opportunity to really, determine if they can commit the kind of time that it's going to require. But we ask them and we talk about what an amazing opportunity it is. And word has begun to spread. So people who participate in these projects have gotten so much out of it just because it's such a unique development opportunity. And they're contributing so much to the community in a way that they never realized was possible. So it kind of speaks for itself. And so we've been rotating it for that reason. And I think, honestly, in some ways, it's almost hard to stop their engagement. So we hear stories all the time of work that once the project's done, our people are still involved. We had somebody just recently that joined one of the boards of the nonprofit because he was so compelled by the work that they were doing that he wanted to continue to give back, past the program experience.
And then just from a Fidelity Cares, our community relations employee volunteer program, our team tracks the volunteer hours, the skills-based volunteer hours, in addition to all our volunteer hours that relate to Fidelity volunteering. And so they maintain ongoing communication with our volunteers, and so we do our best to keep them engaged. And as Marissa said, there's some great examples of some of these volunteers who haven't walked away from the organizations but just developed even deeper relationships.
Great, thank you. And then this question, maybe for Danielle with your experience, but there's always kind of that balance between what is going to be most useful for the employees and their skills and how you match that to what really will be most impactful for nonprofits. At VolunteerMatch, we have a lot of companies who will engage in hackathons, where they're getting their technology teams to, build some sort of widget or app or something for a nonprofit. And some of the feedback that we often hear from the nonprofits is that, it was a great event for the employees, but was it really the most impactful project for the nonprofit? And they're not really sure. So for Danielle, how do you find the nonprofits who have the capacity for these skilled projects? And how do you kind of ensure that there's that balance between what both sides will really get the most out of?
Right, yeah, it's such a common challenge. The way that we approach it is by starting with the employee skill sets and the employee professional development goals so that we really have a sense of what that team composition looks like and what deliverable or what product we can give to a nonprofit organization. And there is so much demand in the nonprofit community that there's always an organization and a project that will align perfectly. And we have a bunch of conversations with different organizations to be really clear about what the offering is, and that if it doesn't feel like a good alignment, that it's not worth their time and their prioritization given how strapped they are day to day. And so starting with that resource is how we approach that, and then matching that with the demand and being really clear about expectations in terms of the time that it's going to take to manage the project, and that it's a really priority project for the organization.
Great, thank you. And then just as our sort of wrap-up question, wondering if each of you could just give one takeaway that you hope that folks will go back to their desks and roles to incorporate as they're thinking about skilled volunteering. We'll start with you, Laura.
I would say that I believe this has been successful within Fidelity for two reasons. One is there are clear, very, very clear business goals that were met consistently, project after project, and so we continue to do it. And it was really with the help of a champion internally that initially got Common Impact off the ground. And as they kind of gained momentum, more and more business units started paying attention to who they were and what they could do for the company and the community. And I think those two things, or two reasons, are why they've been so successful within our company.
Great, thank you. And how about you, Marissa?
So what I would say is that, so when I first started managing the program, I thought to myself, really, we're going to ask people to dedicate this much time outside of their regular normal day jobs? And I scratched my head and I thought, is this really going to work? But what I would tell you is it's an incredible opportunity, and I just manage the program, so I don't do any of the hard work, but to see that all of this come together and come to fruition and what our employees get out of it and what the community gets out of it, I would highly advocate, if this is work that you're considering, that that I'd be happy to spend more time and talk about, what we've done, as well as some of our lessons learned too, because we clearly have them. Each year that we have the program, we evolve it and make it better. And so, I just, it's been a great experience for me.
Wonderful. And Danielle, any last thoughts?
Yeah, I think related to what Laura says, this is a type of program that doesn't just benefit any one business unit or just the community relations or just the HR folks within an organization, that this should really be approached and thought of as a cross-company program, because it really does benefit everyone from the senior leaders of the company to the folks that are just walking in the door in a bunch of different ways. And to have that holistic perspective in the way that Fidelity does is one of the things that I've seen make these programs really, really successful.
Thank you. And I'm also going to answer my own question. From sort of VolunteerMatch's perspective, I think what was really nice to see was a little bit of information on the different roles of the models that you shared, Danielle, where you see folks who are doing consulting or done in a day and those sorts of things. So I think that's nice to get a sense of just a high level of the models. And then I also really liked seeing the different types of employees, the millennials, the emerging talent, and senior leadership, just a really succinct way to think about this. So with that, we have, we're just in the process of concluding this best practice call. Definitely, we hope that everyone will stay informed with VolunteerMatch Solutions. There's a couple of different ways through our blog through Twitter or through our newsletters. And then wanted to make sure that people were aware of our upcoming Best Practice Network webinar, which is going to be held November 13th, from productivity to purpose, how worker well-being increases your bottom line. And this one will be really interesting. We've had some conversations with both of the speakers before. They're doing some really interesting research and thinking about how happiness can lead to a more engaged workforce and how well-being plays a role in that. So we hope you'll join us. And I wanted to also thank Danielle, Laura, and Marissa for sharing all of the good work that you're doing, and hope to see everyone on our next webinar. Thank you.